And you're singing that song like, come Mr. Tallyman, telling me banana. Daylight come and me wanna go home. 2, 1, 2.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and for today's video, we will talk about Chapter 2, Lesson 3, Ethnocentrism and Relativism. What is ethnocentrism? So, ethnocentrism is judging another culture solely by the values and standards of one's own culture. So, when we say ethnocentrism is to describe the opinion of one's own way of life is natural or correct. Some will simply call it cultural ignorance. Ethnocentrism means that one may see his or her own culture as the correct way of living. So, for those who have not experienced other cultures in depth, can be said to be ethnocentric if they feel that their lives are the most natural way of living. Take, for example, ethnocentrism in culture. So, the Asian culture across all the countries of Asia. Throughout Asia, the way of eating is to use chopsticks with every meal. These people may find it unnecessary to find that people in other societies, such as the American society, eat using forks, spoons, and knives. Since these countries use chopsticks to eat every meal, they find it foolish for other cultures to not use utensils similar to chopsticks. However, they do accept the fact that they use different utensils for eating. Ethnocentric individuals judge other groups relative to their own ethnic group or culture, especially with concern for language, behavior, customs, and religion. So, to judge other cultures, practices, behaviors, beliefs, and people, instead of using the standards of the particular cultural involved, this judgment is often negative, and also the term used is referred to the belief that one's culture is superior to. These ethnic distinctions and subdivisions serve to define each culture, ethnicity's unique cultural identity. So, the distinctions that define each ethnicity's cultural identity, such as language, behavior, customs, and religion, it can also simply mean any culturally biased judgment. For example, ethnocentrism can be seen in the common portrayals of the Global South and the Global North. According to William G. Sumner, ethnocentrism is defined as the technical name for the view of things in which one's own group is the center of everything and all others are scaled and rated with reference to it. So he further characterized it as often leading to pride, vanity, beliefs, and one's own group's superiority and contempt of outsiders. In the study of anthropology, ethnocentric are people born into a particular culture that grow up observing the values and behaviors of the culture will develop a worldview that considers their culture to be the norm. So, if people then experience other cultures that have different values and normal behaviors, they will find that the thought patterns appropriate to their birth culture are not appropriate for the new cultures. So, however, since people are accustomed to their birth culture, it can be difficult for them to see the behaviors of people from a different culture from the viewpoint of that culture rather than from their own. Examples of ethnocentrism include religious-centric constructs claiming a divine association, like divine nation, one nation under God, God's own country, God's chosen people, and God's promised land. What is cultural relativism? So, cultural relativism is the principle that an individual person's beliefs and activities should be understood by others in terms of that individual's own culture. So, cultural relativism refers to not judging a culture to our own standards of what is right or wrong, strange or normal. So instead, we should try to understand cultural practices of other groups in its own cultural context. Take, for example, instead of thinking fried crickets are disgusting, one should instead ask, why do some cultures eat fried insects? Franz Boas first articulated the idea in 1887. Civilization is not something absolute but is relative, and our ideas and conceptions are true only so far as our civilization goes. However, Boas did not coin the term. He understood culture to include not only certain tastes in food, art, and music, or beliefs about religion, but he assumed a much broader notion of culture. There are two problems understanding of culture confronts anthropologists. First, how to escape the unconscious bonds of one's own culture, which inevitably bias our perceptions of and reactions to the world. And second, how to make sense of an unfamiliar culture. Generalization. Ethnocentrism, the tendency to assume that one's own culture and way of life represent the norm or are superior to all others, means the natural tendency or inclination among all people to view reality from their own cultural experience and perspective. Cultural relativism, the viewing of people's behavior from the perspective of their own culture. So, cultural relativism describes the simple fact that there are different cultures and each has different ways of behaving, thinking, and feeling as its members learn such as previous generation.